While this hot, muggy weather might be great for mosquitoes, Paul, when it comes to cattle, they're kind of a lot like us. They don't really enjoy it as much.
Yeah, these cattle are out in the elements most of the time, if not all of the time. And when we have really high temperatures along with this humidity, it gets really rough on them. Their natural comfort zone goes up to about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. But when you start putting the humidity in with that, and you know, we express this as temperature humidity index, if we start getting up to about 74 as a THI, we start getting into where we need to start being worried. When we get up higher than that to, you know, around 79, that's really where we need to start being very careful to limit our activities. And if we get up to 84 THI, then we really need to pull back and make sure those cattle have some cool water, some shade, you know, get some relief from that. Along with our humidity and the discomfort we have during the day, if we have temperatures that don't go below 70 degrees at night, those cattle can't give off their excess heat load from the day into the environment, and that just increases the whole problem. So they're carrying heat load over. This morning, it was 80 degrees with about 80% humidity. So we were already in an extreme or an alert temperature humidity index. And that was first thing this morning.
And we're still just a couple of days away from the first day of summer, so there's still a long stretch before we get into the fall. So, you know, why don't we just run through what some of the, you know, implications for heat stress in cattle, like what can really affect their performance?
Well, whenever we start getting into mild heat stress, where we just see those cattle panting, they're already going to decrease their feed intake. You know, when a cow or a calf or a feedlot animal eats feed, they're fermenting that in their rumen, and that creates heat load as well. So to decrease that heat load, they're going to start decreasing feed and forage intake. As it gets higher, they're going to start, you know, drinking more water and you know, decreasing activity, spending more time in the shade, more time standing in water. And you know, then they'll start actively panting, or if you see them open mouth breathing with their tongue sticking out, they're in extreme heat stress.
You mentioned briefly a little bit about, you know, having access to cool water and maybe even a pond, but is there any other management strategies that producers can take to kind of limit that stress?
If cattle don't have natural shade, you need to find a way to supply some artificial shade structures. You know, using a shade cloth is vastly superior to use something like tin. It needs to be high enough that there'll be airflow to get, you know, the hot air out of that structure. We need to find ways to expose those cattle to positive airflow and ventilation. So other things is, you know, don't work cattle or transport cattle or process cattle in unless you just really have to, whenever we're in these extreme heat conditions. Cattle will adapt to the heat load over time, but we've gone through a series of, you know, warm temperatures and then cool temperatures, and those cattle haven't been able to adapt to it. So right now will be the most critical time until they're more adapted to the heat.
All right, thanks, Paul. Paul Beck, Extension Beef Specialist here at Oklahoma State University. And if you'd like a link to more information that he talked about, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.